So then, could F1 2019 be on the way sooner than we all think? Now, first of all, let's dissect this into parts. First of all, guys, to those of you who were expecting career mode today, I want to get this disclaimer out of the way. I do apologise, there won't be an episode today. There might not be one tomorrow either. I'm basically at work this week, and I've been working for the last 3 days. I've got one more tomorrow, and basically I've just not had the time, unfortunately, to get around to recording. It's been really, really busy lately. I will make it up for you guys, though. I'm going to get hopefully a couple of double upload episodes out sometime next week, maybe, and also, making up for you in the streams with the open lobbies in F1 2018. So hopefully you guys do look forward to that over on Twitch. But we're going to delve into the more important thing in this video, and something I want to bring to you guys. I've had it, in the back of my mind for a while. I've really wanted to make this video. I just haven't been able to, but now I'm going to just go for it and see what you guys think, because I'm curious to see what you say in the comments. Now, recently, I was on Twitter, standard thing, just browsing Twitter pretty much, and I stumbled upon a couple of tweets. Now, the first one is from Ismael Sevi, who is a Spanish F1 YouTuber. You can check him out down below in the description. And also another tweet from Kezari Kine, who is an F1 modder on the game, who does all really good quality mods, and he has been doing so for a couple of years now. And I do urge you to go check both of these guys out. They're good at modding the F1 game, and Ismael, the Spanish person, is actually a content creator on YouTube. Now, there's two tweets from theirs that I've got their permission to use, and I wanted to talk about here today, and they're regarding the potential of F1 2019. As you can see, first of all, from Ismail Sevi's screenshot, we have a picture, and it basically says, it was two pictures. One's zoomed in, which is the one on the right, and the one on the left is basically F1 2019 features placeholder. Very interesting, something quite curious. So what I did was, literally today, I got back from work, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a look for myself. So I delved into the game files. Now, I find it very interesting. So basically what happens is, if you go into Ego EIP Archiver, which is a program that you can use to mod the F1 game files, once you're in the program and you basically do a little bit of researching, you can find a certain file. As you can see on screen right now, what I've got selected. I've taken a precise video of it, and you'll see it in a moment's time. But basically, what happens is, you click in the bottom left and you click on the arrow, because there's 20, I think there's like 13 images or something like that. I'm not really sure the exact number, but there's a few images. Basically, what you want to do is you want to click to image number 6, and what happens is you get to this picture, which is weird because it basically says F1 2019 features placeholder. It's basically the tweet from Ismail Sevi, which I basically looked for myself to get a proper quality image, and it's very interesting this, because what could this mean? Could F1 2019 be here on the way already? Now, here's my thought process. I had a couple of conversations with Kezari Kine, who is an F1 YouTuber, the F1 modder I was on about before. And I'm going to have the DM conversation over on screen right now, so you guys can read it for yourselves. I'll read through it with you. So basically, we had a couple of chats, and basically Kezari said a 2019 DLC would make sense, as I suspect they really want to update the game engine before F1 2021, and with no language files accessible as of now, it's impossible to mod it as well. Now, first of all, let's explain this first part. Now, the language file, essentially, is what enables you to rename anything in the game. So when you've seen modded series of F1 YouTubers in the past, the language file, basically modding that part of the game, allows you to change the names of the drivers and the teams. As of now, the modders cannot find the file, therefore it's encrypted somewhere, and we can't access this. So someone, for example, put a comment in my video saying, why don't you rename Force India to Racing Point Force India? Why don't you rename Torosso to Torosso Honda Venom? Because that's what the theme I'm running with right now. And you can't. We're not allowed to. We're not allowed to. No one can find it. And if it is, it's encrypted and hidden in the game file somewhere, which is something that was very visible and basic before, but now you cannot find it. In terms of the rest of the tweet and the rest of the DM, we were speaking about a DLC for 2019 because it makes sense. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this, and I think it's a really good idea. Now, let me explain. So F1 has always released around August, September, even October at times, and it's always been a late release. They tried once in July, and the game was absolutely horrible in terms of game-breaking bugs. And if you think it's bad now, you should have tried it way back then. Now, basically, right now they've sort of settled on for a very late August release. Now, if you work it out, if you look at FIFA, for example, FIFA releases about a month after the actual real-life football season started, which is insane. If you look at MotoGP, that launches about a month and a half to 2 months after the actual MotoGP season starts. And, generally most sporting games, whether it be NBA, even I think Madden as well, they all release relatively after the season started, but it's still pretty much in sync. With F1, you miss 2/3 or well over half of the season, and you're out of sync. So essentially, when F1 2018 came out, we already knew Ricciardo was going for Renault next year, and we knew Alonso was retiring. And it takes away from that legitimacy and also feeling of you're playing the game of the season that you're racing, which you are. I understand that, but in 6 months, in 4 months' time, Ricciardo's going to be a Renault driver, and the game's not even halfway old, if that makes sense. It's only 4 months into its cycle, and it's still got another 8 to go. So F1's very outdated in that sense, and it can do a lot of work. Now, how can you work on this? If you look at FIFA, MotoGP, they build their games from the ground up, and they use stuff from last year. If you look at FIFA, when you get the early access, previews, they use kits of the players and the way they look from last year's game just to show off basic gameplay. MotoGP as well, they use last year's bikes for illustration. That's all it is, illustration purposes. And I think F1 could take a lot from this and try and learn, because they could definitely build the entire game and leave the actual cars until the last minute to do. It makes a lot of sense. F1 basically what they do is they wait until the preseason testing is underway so they can start doing all the cars which they've seen unveiled at Catalonia. So what happens is we don't just get a game that's out of sync and outdated after 4 months. We also get cars from preseason Catalonia spec right now, when we're only 8 races or 7 races away from the season finishing, when we should be getting cars which are a lot more up to date. So I think moving the game to an earlier release and changing the way the method of making the game is created would be a massive improvement. And I think making a DLC of the game would be a big step in the right direction. Now, how does this work, and what do I mean by this is basically, if they did a DLC version of F1 2019 on the F1 2018 game, it means they can literally save so much time and effort on focusing on the game. And they can literally just completely focus and only focus on making the cars visually accurate and up to date for F1 2019 when that actually happens. So for Australia, we should have the cars a lot quicker. And, we could have the DLC around maybe April when the season starts in March. Maybe a month later, we could have, the DLC in April/early May instead of having to wait until late August and when everyone goes back to school. Now, also, there's a lot of other reasons for this, in my opinion, and a lot of reasons why this could be beneficial to the F1 game. As I spoke to Kazora about, we'll keep on reading the conversation here, I said, but yeah, I don't know, I thought too about the generation cars in 2021. Essentially, as we know, we have a regulation change in 2021, and they might be trying to work something with that. Also, not just there might be a new game engine, which is what I'm mentioning as well. And also the next-gen consoles are bringing into the question, because the fact of the matter is, we're now in 2018. F1 2019 will come out, let's say in August, if it came out at a normal time. And by that point, the PS4 and the Xbox One will be nearly 6 years old. If you go back to the PS3 and Xbox 360, those consoles were around for about 6 years or 7 years at max when the next gen came out. So, in my opinion, we're on the brink of a new generation of console coming out. Like, you could very easily next year at E3 from Sony and Xbox, we could have the next big generation consoles announced for next year, and it's a very realistic possibility. So, with that in mind, if we cast our minds back to F1 2014, that game, it took so long to get any news on that game to come out. And people were thinking it's because they were going to do it on the new gen consoles, and you can understand the delay. But it turns out they still only released the game on the old PS3 and Xbox 360, and everyone was so pissed off about it, and they could not understand why they hadn't gone for the new hardware. And they brought out F1 2015, which was the first game on the new hardware, and it was full of bugs, and they tried to do a July release, and it did not work. So I'm speaking to Kai in the DMs, and we're basically agreeing that they're basically not making the same mistake they did a couple of years ago, and they might be trying to go for an early release before the next gen of consoles happen, so they're used to it, and also because it would give them more time. So imagine this: say F1 2019 releases as DLC for the F1 2018 game, they can then start working in, let's say, May or April next year on F1 2020, a whole 3 to 4 months before they even would have released F1 2019 at its original date. And that way, they would have already fast-tracked the game cycle, and they're now working early on towards an F1 2020 game. And also, I'd even say right now, my guess would be F1 2020 would most likely be the newest generation of console by then. I'll be very surprised if we don't have a PS5 or the next Xbox by then. Also, a third reason, which was something I've elaborated on afterwards, the game engine. Let's talk about this because they released the new, or they updated the Ego engine, which is what the game runs on for F1 2015 when they transferred to the new gen consoles. They might be looking to also try a new engine or update the Ego engine yet again for the new generation of upcoming consoles. So there's a lot of cogs in motion here, which could really change the way the game is, if that makes sense. Like Hines says in the DM, he says, yeah, a 2019 DLC for 2018 with a new engine for 2020 makes sense. Gives them a lot more time for development of an entirely new game to avoid a 2015-esque game. And that is true. There's a lot of things that can happen here and a lot of pieces in motion. So you have to wonder, could there be any seeds in this? Is there any truth in this? Because to me, it certainly seems like there could be some substance to this. Now, diving into Kyne's actual tweet, which I mentioned at the start of the video, as you can see, he went to the game files and he actually managed to mod and load up into the game this car. I say this car because it's a 2018-ish kind of F1 car, but it's got elements that looks like different. Now, as far as I'm aware, this is the car that was in the F1 2018 beta. However, if we look at it in the different angles and images, there's a lot of things here to suggest that this might be a 2019 F1 game prototype. Now, there's two areas of the car which really stand out to me and make me think this could be potentially a 2019 early spec car. First of all, you have to look at the front wing, which is the main thing. It's a very basic and simple front wing. You can see in the green and the blue, they literally just got rid of those little bits of aero flaps. It would be pretty much a 2019 front wing of just the basic cascades on the front wing. Part number two, which convinces me this could be a 2019 car, is on the side image. If you look at the barge board right behind the front tyres, it's nowhere near as high as what the current 2018 regulations are. For next year in 2019, the barge board is meant to go lower, restricted to a certain height, and it's meant to be longer, as in push forward more. So for me, that looks like it could be a very different barge board to what we see in the current F1 cars. Now, I could be clutching at straws here, and I could totally understand if this is just a 2018 basic car. But there's a few more things to it. Now, if we look at the actual game files, which Kyan tweeted at me, they're all labeled. For example, you've got custom livery there. Could that mean custom liveries? Who knows? Are they trying to also work on that and bring that into the game? There's been a patch now, like a couple of big patches in F1 2018, and both this car and the game and the files within the game, and also the picture we saw before, the F1 2019 features placeholder, none of those things have been removed from the game files after two major patches. So it wasn't like it was a mistake. They've left it in the game for a reason. So you have to wonder, is there something in this? And for me, I'll be very interested to see what you guys think in the comments down below. For me, there's a lot here. There's a lot that could come from this. There's a lot of pieces in play. And all in all, a lot of ideas, which could it be, could it not be? Who knows? You could argue the actual 2019 car, as Kazari said in the tweet before, could it be an F2 car? Because the front of the car, the nose structure, and also the front end of the car looks very much like a Formula 2 car of how wide that nose is. So, yeah, I'm curious, guys. Sound off in the comments below. Let me know. But I think I like the three ideas of it could be made potentially for a new game engine. It could be potentially preparing for an early game release. So, reality is, if you want F1 to release early in the year, you're going to have to sacrifice a game year, essentially. One of the years is going to have to be sacrificed, and 2019 might be the game and the year where that year's F1 game gets sacrificed for the benefit of the genre and the community to get an earlier released F1 game. Also, like I mentioned, you have to factor in the next generation of consoles, which have to be just around the corner. It makes sense on the timeline, considering past years. And all these things is just, you just got to basically take it as is, take it at face value, and but you can definitely you can gather your own conclusions and your own thoughts of this just by looking at these images. And I'm curious to see what you guys think in the comments down below. But if you have enjoyed this video and you found it informative, then drop a like. Also, do get subscribed, turn on notifications to not miss a single video from me, as I'm doing daily Formula 1 content. Apologies yet again for no career mode. And yeah, guys, sound off in the comments down below. I'll be reading every single one of them on this particular video. And also, if you haven't already, then do check out these two videos on screen, guys, if you have not seen them. But other than that, thank you for watching. Let's see my next video very soon. Goodbye.